Alrighty, I'm just going to leave the campfire chat running in the background, but I kind of want to have a thought piece, just kind of sit down with you, real intimate style here, right? It's just you, me, and whoever else is watching this video, as well as the YouTube algorithm bots to make sure that I'm not stealing any music or anything like that. But I want to talk about trading in Diablo 4, because with the changes coming to Season 4, trading is now actually a thing. So I want to talk a little bit about the history of trading, ultimately what the developers originally thought, kind of what my opinions on trading were, and what it's going to look like now. Because there was some very interesting changes that are coming to how itemization works. And what it basically boiled down to was that trading was going to be dead in this game, except for the fact that developers chose to make this one change that drastically changes the overall feel experience of the game. And I think returns to an experience that I had growing up, obviously playing Diablo 1, but then most notably in Diablo 2, and something that I think ultimately was kind of missing in Diablo 3. And my understanding of how trading worked in Diablo 3 is going to be patchy. I started playing the game when it first released with the Real Money Auction House. Then I understood that you can kind of only trade between like you and your group, and I don't really know what it did after that. Let's just generally talk about the history of trading in Diablo 4 and what it looked like and what it looks like now, because I think the vast majority of people should be very happy. And I think it's going to be lost on some people who don't normally interact with trading in these types of games. You know, there's a lot of solo self-found players out there as well. But let's go ahead and talk about what it was in the game previously. So trading has always been a thing in Diablo 4, except in a restricted format. You're basically able to trade rare items, which were basically the base item that you would reroll and put an aspect onto to create the endgame item that you want if you weren't lucky enough to find a legendary item with those stats already on it, as well as generally consumable items. So here you could trade elixirs, which do have a value. In fact, like right now, I think like good elixirs sell for like 10 to 20 million gold a piece, just to give you an idea if you're somebody who never really traded. But it turns out trading has been in the game this entire time. Boss materials are something that people trade at a premium, elixirs again, and rare items. So here, just as an example, a random item on tradery.com. If you didn't know tradery.com, you can go trade here. You can also do diablo.io or diablo.trade. I forget the other websites. I'm not trying to throw shade. I just don't personally do trading myself. But this person is trying to sell an offhand that has all stats, willpower, critical strike chance, and cooldown reduction. The reason why you would want this thing is because you could buy it, and then you could re-roll the willpower into an actual good stat. This one doesn't have any offers on it or whatever. But as it stands in the game right now, one of the biggest thing that's really missing is being able to trade the much more important or build-defining items, and that's all different in Season 4 now. What were my initial opinions about trading? The developers said they wanted you to have to go play the content to get the gear. And since that's normally how I play Diablo games, like in the mod of Diablo called Project Diablo 2, easily the best mod of the original Diablo 2 experience. If you haven't tried it, go try it out. Season 9 is going to be launching very soon. Love Project Diablo 2. Shout outs to Senpai Something, Knight, and the rest of the team. They've done an amazing job with that. But you basically had to trade in that game because items were so rare. What you were looking for was so rare. Getting the exact rolls that you wanted. You could also basically craft like you're going to be able to do now with like tempering, and being able to get like the best of the best gear was something that you couldn't typically do by yourself. Whereas in Diablo 2, I mostly played solo self-found. I might play in groups and we would obviously give each other items, but even that thing was missing in Diablo 4. But the developers basically said, we want you to play the game to get the gear. And if that is a perfectly true statement, I get that sentiment. I don't think that it's strictly wrong. You can put on your tinfoil hat and say it's about player engagement numbers and retention rates, etc. I think that not having trading in Diablo 4 has ultimately been a pain point and something that would actually make it so that players were less interested in playing the games. So whether or not this changes just because they quite literally think that they will retain more players than not, I don't really care what the reason is, but that's what they originally said. I said, sure, I can't trade. I got to get lucky and find the drops. That's what I was doing already. The biggest issue with it is that even playing inside of a group, you never really felt like you were doing something communal. You may drop a really good rare piece of gear. So most notably in the Gauntlet recently, I've been working a lot with First Snow. He's basically like one of the best Necro players. He was the highest Abattoir of Zir clear. We were kind of messing around with different styles of boots, literally having different implicit stats on him. He was able to give me a pair that had attack reduces evade cooldown. I was able to give him a pair that had max evade charges. The problem being that that's the extent of it. You could trade resources, you could trade gold, and you could trade boss mats, you could trade elixirs, you could trade rare items. What you'll now be able to trade is legendary items and unique items. Legendary items meaning that if you find a perfect roll of an aspect that you don't need anymore, you can go sell it to make gold, right? You can literally go put it into the market and be like, hey, I found a perfect Serration, or I found a perfect Umbral, I found a perfect Disobedience, or a Juggernaut, or whatever ends up being the best, survivability aspect in Season 4. And now you can have it too, since selling this to another person will unlock it permanently for them. On top of that, if you're playing with your friend, say you have a buddy and both of you are playing Barbarian, you already have whatever whirlwind aspect you need, they haven't found it yet. Now you can give that to them now that it's on a legendary piece of gear. It also means that after the changes that are coming to rare and legendary, where rare only has 2 affixes and legendary have 3 affixes, rare items were effectively useless. There'll be a progression point and there'll be a bit more of a legitimate item progression feeling as opposed to what it was before, which is basically just like if it's rare or legendary, they're effectively the same. But now you will be able to take that gear that you find that you don't personally need and help out a buddy with it. While you won't be able to trade uber uniques because they're pretty stalwart on the fact that that should be you need to find it to use it. And I absolutely agree with that. No question. On top of the fact that they gave us the ability to, sell off uber uniques to be able to get shards, to be able to craft the other ones that we want. Well, I don't perfectly agree with the 4 shards. I think it should be 3. I do agree with the fact that there should be rare chase items that literally you need to play the game to find them. Being able to trade every other item type in the game opens up this game to a communal sense that it otherwise hadn't experienced before. And I think that ultimately that is very good for the overall health of the game. But what I do want to talk about, and this isn't to dissuade anybody, this isn't to try to change your opinion. What we are going to see is a rapid inflation of RMT because of this, and a huge negative impact on the in-game systems because all trading effectively has to happen outside of the game. And the fact that you can now trade every single item other than uber uniques means that people will quite literally be able to buy their build at the beginning of a season. This is something that we see in Diablo 2 all of the time, right? There is D2JSP. And regardless of how you feel about trading on D2JSP, I don't care about your opinion. You don't care about my opinion. RMT is against terms of service. I know it's not all RMT, but any of it is RMT. I don't care about that. But something that's going to legitimately impact is when they inevitably add season first level 100s, interesting world first accomplishments, etc. Because you will quite literally be able to buy effectively perfect gear for your character. But this is not all to say that trading is bad, right? I think trading is generally good. I think I've made that abundantly clear. But the existence of trading all occurring on third-party websites and none of it occurring in-game is the major pain point. We do not have an auction house. We do not have an in-game trading system. And what you basically get is you can talk in trade channel that goes out to about 20 people on your server. You can't see anybody else. You have no way of verifying what items have value. You have to know where the subreddit or the Discord or the third-party trading site currently has those listed at. There are whole economies that exist around games where you can buy or sell items on website to buy or sell them on a different website. One website will allow you to do RMT. These people will be hyper botted and all those items will just be farmed super efficiently and then ultimately sold back into the system, effectively destroying prices. Even if you find a very rare thing, there will be a million bots finding those as well. So you won't be able to sell it for a good amount of gold. And then the ultra rare items that only certain people have enough money that they've been accruing over years, in the case of D2JSP, will be able to afford. So you won't be able to buy the perfect gear. You'll have to just settle for mid gear. We see this all the time in Diablo 2. There are whole second and third market economies that bust up around season starts. And while that's very cool for the people who participate in it, and I'm not even shaming them, I understand how cool that is. I myself have literally personally benefited from being able to trade for stuff on D2JSP for 99 pushes, right? Being able to go get the stuff to get an Enigma gives you that advantage. There's no question about it. Again, these are D2 references. But this is going to impact Diablo 4. It is going to have that impact. So what I hope the developers are doing at this point is by opening up trade, really putting the pedal to the metal and working on in-game trade functions. Does this alleviate the problems of third-party websites? No, of course not. Does it really change how inflation will negatively impact the market of items in general? Also, no. But what it does allow is people who just want to be able to play the game inside the game and not have to have a secondary, like part-time job of playing the market outside of it, be able to participate in a way here. It also allows there to be like direct oversight to trades that happen and repercussions, right? If I trade with somebody on a website and they scam me, that person's account might get banned on that website, but they could just make a new account. It's very simple to do. It happens literally all the time. Whereas here in Diablo 4, while they can just go buy another game key and continue playing, there's like legitimate ramifications for people just being shitty humans, and even worse, shitty bots pretending to be shitty humans. But what I really hope is that the average player gets to experience trading in a more valuable and like effortless and fun way, as opposed to having to worry about having the know-how to use alternative methods outside of the game. Again, literally not playing the game to play the game, and get that incorporated into the game experience that we currently have. So trading is coming. Very exciting. I think ultimately it's just strictly better for the game. There are some dark corners of trading that ultimately are, no, you don't get your free advertisements. Get out of here. Get out of here, free advertisements. Well, Jeff Goldblum is an absolute saint, so we will leave Jeff Goldblum on here. But trading is ultimately going to be very good for the game. I'm excited for people to be able to play together, crouch co-op, just playing along with your clan and your group. Hey, clans now have a value where you could talk to each other and literally be able to trade amongst them. Be like, hey, I found this one. Does anybody need it? So like that's strictly better. And ultimately, I hope that they add in an auction house, which is like the little cherry on top that's currently missing to allow players to do everything in game, because that's what a lot of people would like to be able to do. What I would love to hear from people is the impact that you all think this is going to have on Diablo 4, because it's effectively a completely different game at this point, right? Like, I'm going to just be able to go buy a Death Speaker's, well, I would never buy a Death Speaker's amulet, but I'm just going to be able to go buy a Ring of Sacrilegious Soul. This opens up the ability of people to be able to farm until they have the gear to be able to participate in like leaderboards a lot more effectively than they did previously. That's a really cool, like positive outcome from this. But let me know down in the comments if you're brand new here and you haven't ever watched any of my content, or maybe you haven't clicked the button yet. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's free for you. It strictly helps me out. It helps the YouTube algorithm to know that like people want to see what we're doing here. And I would love to have you here for more videos. And as well, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video, that would help me out a ton. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to get your opinions. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement and growth with this change. And hopefully it doesn't have like some of those like more nebulous negative interactions or outcomes on the game in general for the average player. But thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you found it thought-provoking at the very least, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.